The crystal ships of the Zephyrian Empire cut through space like deadly glass shards. Their weapons turned entire planets into dust. 17 star systems had fallen to them in just 3 years. No one could stop them. Admiral Dexva stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another enemy fleet burn. His tall, insect-like body gleamed with the blue light of victory. The Zephyrians were perfect warriors. Their technology was beyond anything other species could imagine. Their honor code made them fearless in battle. Admiral, his communications officer, buzzed. A human ship approaches under diplomatic flags. Deshva clicked his mandibles in amusement. Humans? I have heard of this species. They inhabit a small world called Earth. They must be here to surrender. The human ship was tiny compared to Zephyrian vessels. It looked weak and fragile. Dexva allowed it to dock at the neutral station orbiting the gas giant. He expected to see a trembling ambassador begging for mercy. Instead, a calm human woman walked into the meeting room. She was middle-aged with gray hair and steady eyes. Her uniform was clean but simple. She showed no fear. "I am Ambassador Sarah Chun," she said with a slight bow. "I represent the United Earth government." Dexva towered over her, his forearms crossed. "Have you come to surrender your pathetic world?" "No," Chun replied. "I have come to join your war." The room fell silent. Deshva's officers looked at each other in confusion. In all their campaigns, no species had ever asked to join them. They either fought or surrendered. "You wish to fight alongside us?" Dexva asked. "Yes," Chun said. "Our scientists have studied your military campaigns. We have analyzed your technology and tactics. The conclusion is clear. Your victory is certain. Fighting you would be a pointless waste of life." She pulled out a data pad and placed it on the table. "Earth's governments have decided to offer our services to the Empire. We understand we cannot match your combat abilities, but we can help in other ways." Dexva examined the data. It contained detailed analysis of Zephyrian battles, accurate maps of their conquered territories, and profiles of resistance groups. The information was better than what his own intelligence officers had gathered. "Impressive," he admitted. "But why should we trust humans? This could be a trick." Chun smiled sadly. "Admiral, what could we possibly do to harm you? Your ships can destroy our entire fleet in minutes. Your weapons can crack planets. We offer our help because survival requires wisdom. Sometimes wisdom means knowing when you cannot win." The logic was sound. Dexva had never encountered such practical thinking from a species facing conquest. Most aliens either fought with desperate fury or collapsed in terror. These humans showed neither emotion. They simply calculated their chances and chose the smart path. "What services do you offer?" he asked. "Medical support for wounded soldiers. Logistics management for supply lines. Communication services. Translation work with other species. Administrative duties in occupied territories." Chun paused. "We are good at working with different alien cultures. We can help manage prisoners and civilian populations." Dexva considered this. The Empire's rapid expansion had stretched their resources thin. Managing conquered worlds was becoming difficult. His warriors were meant for battle, not paperwork and prisoner care. These humans could handle the boring tasks that his soldiers found beneath them. "Our culture forbids us from trusting aliens completely," he said. "You would work under strict supervision. Any betrayal would result in Earth's immediate destruction." "We understand completely," Chun replied. "We ask only for the chance to prove our loyalty through service." The negotiations took 3 days. Human representatives arrived with detailed plans for medical facilities, supply chain management, and prisoner administration. They brought advanced psychological profiles of various alien species and communication protocols that could reduce conflicts in occupied territories. Dexfa found himself impressed. Despite his natural suspicion, these humans had clearly spent enormous effort studying the Empire. Their proposals were practical and well-researched. They seemed to understand that cooperation was their only hope for survival. The agreement was signed on the fourth day. Humans would serve as auxiliary forces in non-combat roles. They would receive protection as junior partners in the Empire. Earth would remain independent, but under Zephyrian oversight. As Chum prepared to leave, Dexfa spoke privately with her. "Your species is unusual. Most aliens either fight us with hatred or serve us with fear. You show neither." Chum looked out at the stars through the station's viewport. "Fear and hatred are luxuries we cannot afford, Admiral. Survival requires clear thinking. Your empire is strong. We choose to be useful rather than destroyed." "Wise," Dexfa agreed. "Perhaps humans will prosper under our rule." After the human delegation departed, Dexfa discussed the agreement with his senior officers. Some worried about trusting aliens. Others questioned whether humans might be spies or saboteurs. "They are too weak to threaten us," Dexfa decided, "and their skills could prove valuable. We shall watch them carefully, but they may help us manage our growing territory." Within weeks, human medical teams arrived at Zephyrian bases. Human logistics specialists began organizing supply depots. Human administrators took over prisoner camps and civilian management centers in conquered systems. The Empire's efficiency improved noticeably. Medical care for wounded warriors became faster and better. Supply lines ran more smoothly. Prisoner uprisings decreased as human administrators proved skilled at managing different alien cultures. Dexfa began to think the humans might be the Empire's greatest discovery. They were useful, obedient, and efficient. Perfect servants for a superior species. He had no idea that Earth's greatest weapon was not technology or firepower, but understanding. The humans had studied more than just military tactics. They had learned how the Zephyrian mind worked, what drove their culture, and what fears lay beneath their arrogance. The war was about to change in ways no one could. Imagine. Dr. Marcus Webb adjusted his medical scanner and smiled at the wounded Zephyrian soldier lying on the treatment table. The warrior's compound leg fracture was healing well under human care. "How do you feel today?" Webb asked in perfect Zephyrian. "Better," the soldier admitted grudgingly. "Your medicine is adequate for such a primitive species." Webb nodded humbly. "We are honored to serve the Empire's finest warriors." What the soldier didn't know was that Webb held 3 degrees in xenopsychology and had spent 2 years studying Zephyrian behavioral patterns. The medical scanner was recording far more than bone density and tissue repair. It was mapping neural responses, stress hormones, and psychological markers. Similar scenes played out across dozens of Zephyrian facilities. Human medical teams had been assigned to every major base and conquered world. They treated injuries, managed health records, and conducted what appeared to be routine psychological evaluations of soldiers and prisoners. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos ran the human medical operation on the occupied world of Kepler-7. Her team of 50 doctors and nurses had gained the trust of the local Zephyrian garrison. They worked 18-hour days treating wounded warriors and managing alien civilian populations. "The Zephyrians think we're simple healers," Santos told her team during a private briefing. "They see medical work as beneath their warrior culture. That gives us perfect cover for intelligence gathering." Her staff wasn't just collecting medical data. They were mapping the Empire's entire command structure. Every conversation, every casual remark, every piece of overheard gossip was recorded and analyzed. The humans were building detailed psychological profiles of key Zephyrian. LEADERS Dr. Jennifer Park worked in the prisoner administration center on the moon of Titan III. She managed 12 different alien species captured during recent campaigns. The Zephyrians found this work boring and had gladly handed it over to humans. Subject 247 shows classic symptoms of cultural displacement, she reported to her hidden recorders. Recommend increased social interaction with compatible species groups to reduce suicide risk. The Zephyrians praised Park's skill at preventing prisoner unrest. They didn't realize she was also documenting their interrogation techniques, security procedures, and communication protocols. Every piece of information went into humanity's growing database. The most important work happened in the Empire's communication centers. Human technicians had proved excellent at maintaining the complex networks that connected thousands of worlds. Their natural talent for languages made them valuable translators and message processors. Sergeant Tom Rodriguez worked the night shift at Communication Hub, Alpha 7. His job was to route messages between fleet commanders and maintain signal clarity across interstellar distances. He performed this work flawlessly while secretly copying every transmission. Message traffic is up 30% this week, he reported to his Zephyrian supervisor. Mostly routine supply requests and status updates. What Rodriguez didn't mention was the subtle pattern analysis his hidden computers were performing. Human artificial intelligence was parsing every communication for emotional content, stress indicators, and relationship dynamics between officers. They were learning how the Empire's leadership really thought and felt. Dr. Webb's team made a crucial discovery during their third month of operations. Zephyrian psychology was built on rigid honor codes and intense fear of social shame. Their entire culture revolved around concepts of worthiness, bravery, and peer approval. They're more fragile than they appear, Webb explained in an encrypted report to Earth. Their arrogance masks deep insecurity about their place in their social hierarchy. They desperately need approval from their superiors and fear being seen as weak or unworthy. This information changed everything. Humanity's real weapon wasn't medicine or logistics support. It was their growing understanding of how to manipulate Zephyrian emotions and cultural values. Meanwhile, human communication specialists began making tiny changes to the Empire's information networks. They altered phrasing in routine broadcasts, adjusted translation protocols for conquered species, and introduced subtle modifications to internal messaging systems. The changes were nearly invisible. A word here, a tone there, small shifts that seemed like natural evolution of language and procedure. The Zephyrians, who considered themselves superior to all other species, paid no attention to suggestions from their human helpers. Chief Petty Officer Lisa Wong worked in the Empire's Central Propaganda Division. Her job was to help translate victory announcements into languages spoken by conquered species. She performed this task excellently while secretly planting psychological seeds. Perhaps we should emphasize the Empire's wisdom rather than just their strength, she suggested to her supervisor. Conquered populations respond better to leaders who show both power and intelligence. The suggestion seemed reasonable. The Zephyrians began adding phrases about their enlightened leadership and cultural superiority to their broadcasts. They didn't realize these subtle changes were designed to make them sound more arrogant and out of touch to alien audiences. Dr. Webb's team identified their primary targets after 4 months of observation. Admiral Vexva was ambitious but insecure about his position. General Veximer was respected but privately doubted the war's necessity. Emperor Crix, tall himself, showed signs of fatigue and growing paranoia about threats to his rule. "We're not trying to defeat them militarily," Webb explained to his core team. "We're going to make them defeat themselves. Their honor culture is their strength, but it's also their weakness. We just need to turn their own values against them." The humans began crafting carefully designed psychological operations, false medical studies about combat stress, fabricated intelligence reports suggesting internal threats. Subtle rumors about leadership competence spread through communication channels. Lieutenant Santos started reporting concerning psychological patterns among Zephyrian troops at her facility. She claimed that extended warfare was causing honor degradation syndrome, a completely fictional condition that supposedly affected warrior cultures during prolonged campaigns. The symptoms include doubt about mission objectives, decreased confidence in leadership, and anxiety about peer judgment. She reported with fake concern. I recommend immediate psychological intervention to prevent spread of this condition. The Zephyrians took these reports seriously. Their culture's fear of shame made any threat to their honor seem genuinely dangerous. They began requesting more medical evaluations and psychological assessments from human experts. Dr. Park introduced similar concerns at her prisoner facility. She claimed that certain alien species were showing unusual resistance patterns that suggested sophisticated psychological warfare techniques being used against Zephyrian guards. The prisoners aren't trying to escape physically, she reported. They're attempting to undermine our guards' confidence through subtle emotional manipulation. I've documented 17 separate incidents of this behavior. These fabricated reports created exactly the response humans wanted. The Zephyrians became more paranoid and suspicious. They started doubting their own perceptions and relying more heavily on human expertise to identify threats. 6 months after joining the Empire, humanity had achieved something no military force had managed. They had infiltrated every level of Zephyrian society. They understood their enemies' deepest fears and strongest motivations. The real war was about to begin, and the Zephyrians had no idea they were already losing. The fabricated recording was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. Human technicians had spent 3 weeks creating perfect audio of Emperor Crystal, supposedly expressing private doubts about the war to his closest advisors. Sometimes I wonder if this expansion serves our people or just my own legacy, the fake Emperor's voice said with carefully crafted weariness. How many more worlds must we conquer before we can claim true victory? Dr. Webb's team had designed the recording with deliberate flaws. The audio quality was slightly too perfect. The Emperor's speech patterns were accurate, but missing subtle personal quirks that only his inner circle would notice. When Zephyrian intelligence analyzed the recording, they would immediately identify it as a human forgery. Sergeant Rodriguez released the audio through captured resistance communication channels. Within hours, it spread across 3 star systems before Zephyrian forces intercepted it. As planned, their intelligence experts quickly determined the recording was fake. Clumsy human propaganda, Admiral Dexfa declared when he reviewed the analysis. They try to make us doubt our Emperor's resolve. This proves our cause is just. They must resort to obvious lies. But the psychological damage was already done. Even knowing the recording was fake, Zephyrian officers couldn't stop thinking about the words. The ideas had been planted. In quiet moments, some began wondering if the Emperor really did have private doubts. Dr. Park escalated her fictional psychological reports. She claimed that extended combat was causing honor fatigue syndrome among warriors, a condition where soldiers began questioning whether continued fighting actually decreased their honor rather than increasing it. The symptoms are subtle. She reported to increasingly worried Zephyrian medical officers. Affected warriors perform their duties perfectly, but show decreased enthusiasm for combat. They begin to view unnecessary battles as wasteful rather than glorious. Lieutenant Santos supported this narrative with fabricated case studies from her medical facility. She documented imaginary patients suffering from victory guilt, warriors who felt ashamed about defeating obviously inferior opponents. True honor comes from facing worthy enemies, her fake patients supposedly claimed. What glory is there in crushing beings who cannot truly fight back? These reports struck directly at Zephyrian cultural fears. Their society valued honorable combat above everything else. The suggestion that some victories might actually be dishonorable created deep anxiety among leadership. Meanwhile, human communication specialists continued their subtle manipulation of information networks. They began spreading carefully designed rumors about high-ranking officials questioning orders in private. Each rumor was crafted to sound plausible while being impossible to verify. Chief Wang introduced the most devastating rumor during a routine translation meeting. She casually mentioned overhearing two junior officers discussing something troubling they had witnessed. "I shouldn't repeat gossip," she said with perfect fake reluctance. But they claimed they saw General Veximer looking troubled after receiving new orders from the capital. They said he appeared to be arguing with someone over a private communicator. The rumor spread like poison through the ranks. Officers began watching each other for signs of doubt or disloyalty. Paranoia infected command structures as everyone wondered who might be secretly questioning their superiors. Dr. Webb implemented the final phase of the psychological operation 6 months after the fake recording incident. His team released a second fabricated audio file, this one featuring Admiral HFY supposedly expressing concerns about Emperor Krix's mental state. "His demands grow more extreme each week," the fake admiral's voice complained. "Perhaps the burden of leadership has become too great for any single mind to bear." Unlike the first recording, this audio was designed to be completely undetectable as a forgery. Human technology had advanced far beyond what Zephyrians believed possible. When their intelligence services analyzed the new recording, they found no evidence of tampering. The revelation that one of their most trusted admirals might doubt the Emperor's sanity created chaos in Zephyrian leadership. Krixtal himself ordered HFY's immediate arrest and interrogation. The admiral protested his innocence, claiming the recording was another human trick. "Your Majesty, I have served loyally for 20 years, HFY pleaded. "These humans are more clever than we imagined. They seek to divide us against each other." But the recording sounded completely authentic. Even advanced Zephyrian technology could find no evidence of forgery. The Emperor faced an impossible choice: trust his loyal admiral or trust his own security services. The decision tore apart the Empire's command structure. Officers chose sides between those who believed HFY was loyal and those who thought he was a traitor. Military efficiency collapsed as commanders spent more time watching each other than fighting enemies. Human observers documented the growing chaos with satisfaction. Lieutenant Santos reported increasing cases of command dysfunction syndrome among Zephyrian officers at her facility. Dr. Park noted rising suicide rates among prisoners as their guards became erratic and unpredictable. "The Zephyrians are destroying themselves," Webb reported to Earth in an encrypted transmission. "Their honor culture has become a weapon against them. They cannot tolerate doubt, but they cannot escape it either." The psychological pressure reached critical levels when human agents released evidence that the second recording was also a fake, but only after it had already destroyed trust within Zephyrian leadership. The revelation that humans could create undetectable forgeries made every previous communication suspect. "If they can fake Admiral HFY's voice perfectly," officers whispered to each other, "how do we know any of our communications are real?" Emperor Krixtal found himself unable to trust anyone. His paranoia grew so severe that he began issuing contradictory orders and canceling military operations without explanation. The once mighty empire ground to a halt as its leadership consumed itself with suspicion. General Veximer, one of the empire's most respected commanders, finally requested a private audience with the emperor. What he said during that meeting remained classified, but its effects were immediate and dramatic. Within days, Krixtal announced a temporary halt to all offensive operations. He claimed the empire needed time to reassess strategic priorities, and ensure operational security. Military analysts throughout the galaxy recognized this as the beginning of the end. The Zephyrian war machine that had conquered 17 star systems in 3 years had been brought to a complete stop by a species they considered too weak to threaten them. Humanity had achieved the impossible. They had defeated a superior enemy without firing a single shot. The final phase of their plan was about to begin. Ambassador Sarah Chun walked into the conference room aboard the Zephyrian flagship with the same calm confidence she had shown during their first meeting. Admiral Dexva looked older now, his crystalline carapace dulled by months of stress and uncertainty. The recent chaos in Zephyrian command had taken its toll on everyone. Ambassador, Dexva said formally, you requested this meeting to discuss what you called a matter of, mutual benefit. Chun nodded and activated a holographic display showing the current state of the war. Red zones marked active conflicts. Yellow areas indicated unstable territories. Green spaces showed regions where fighting had stopped due to command confusion and operational delays. Admiral, I speak as a friend who has served the Empire loyally for 8 months, she began. Our medical teams have documented concerning patterns among your warriors. Our communication specialists have observed growing inefficiency in your networks. As allies, we feel obligated to offer assistance. Dexva studied the display with growing unease. The data was accurate, too accurate. The Empire's expansion had indeed stalled. Internal conflicts and command confusion had paralyzed military operations across multiple sectors. What assistance do you propose? He asked carefully. Chun smiled with apparent sincerity. The Empire has already proven its overwhelming superiority. 17 star systems conquered in 3 years represents unprecedented military achievement. No species in galactic history has demonstrated such power and efficiency. She highlighted the conquered territories on the map. Your technology is clearly superior. Your warriors are unmatched in combat. Your strategic thinking surpasses all other civilizations. These facts are now universally acknowledged. Dexva felt a strange mixture of pride and confusion. The human was stating obvious truths, but something about her tone suggested a deeper purpose. Given this undisputed supremacy, Chun continued, perhaps the Empire might consider demonstrating its ultimate achievement, the wisdom and confidence that comes with absolute victory. She adjusted the display to show casualty figures and resource expenditure. Continuing to fight inferior opponents might actually diminish the Empire's reputation. When a master swordsman has proven their skill, continuing to duel children becomes unseemly rather than glorious. The words struck directly at Zephyrian cultural values. Their honor code emphasized that true strength included knowing when to show restraint. Fighting enemies who pose no real threat could be seen as weakness rather than courage. You suggest we should stop fighting because we are too strong? Dexva asked with growing interest. I suggest the Empire has already won, Chun replied smoothly. The question now is whether to accept tribute and acknowledgement of your supremacy, or to continue destroying beings who can never truly challenge you. One choice demonstrates supreme confidence. The other might suggest insecurity about your already proven dominance. Dr. Webb's psychological preparation had worked perfectly. Months of subtle conditioning had made Zephyrian leaders hypersensitive to questions about their confidence and security. Chun's words triggered exactly the response her team had engineered. Dexva found himself nodding slowly. There is wisdom in your words. A truly superior civilization does not need to destroy every inferior species it encounters. Chun pressed her advantage. Consider how your actions will be remembered by history. The Zephyrian Empire that conquered through overwhelming power, then chose mercy from a position of strength. Such magnanimity would prove your cultural superiority as well as military dominance. The idea appealed to Dexva's sense of honor and destiny. Throughout their conversation, Chun carefully reinforced the notion that ending the war would actually enhance Zephyrian prestige rather than diminish it. "I must discuss this with the Emperor," Dexva said finally. "Your perspective is illuminating." Chun bowed respectfully. "Of course, Admiral. Such momentous decisions require the wisdom of your supreme leader." What Dexva didn't know was that similar conversations were taking place throughout the Zephyrian command structure. Human advisors embedded in every facility were making identical suggestions to their Zephyrian contacts. The message was consistent. Continuing the war might make the Empire look weak and insecure rather than strong. Dr. Park spoke with General Veximer about the psychological profiles her team had developed of conquered populations. She explained that continued resistance was actually a form of tribute, proof that other species still considered Zephyrians worth fighting against. "When resistance stops," she said with fake concern, "it might indicate that enemy species no longer see you as worthy opponents. They may have concluded that fighting you is pointless, because your superiority is so absolute." Lieutenant Santos provided Emperor Krikstal with medical data suggesting that his warriors were becoming over-victorious, a fictional condition where soldiers lost their edge due to facing consistently inferior opponents. "Your forces are so dominant that they're not being challenged enough to maintain peak performance," she reported. Some military theorists suggest that truly superior civilizations must occasionally choose not to fight in order to preserve their warrior sharpness. The psychological manipulation reached its crescendo when Chun requested a final private meeting with Emperor Krikstal himself. She arrived bearing gifts of rare metals and artistic works from Earth, tributes that demonstrated human acknowledgement of Zephyrian superiority. "Your Majesty," she said, prostrating herself according to court protocol, "humanity has served the Empire faithfully and learned from your infinite wisdom. We dare to offer one final observation from our limited perspective." Krikstal gestured for her to speak. The months of psychological conditioning had made him surprisingly receptive to human insights. "The galaxy now understands that Zephyrian dominance is absolute and eternal," Chun said carefully. "Continued fighting might suggest uncertainty about this established fact. Only a civilization supremely confident in its power can afford to show mercy." She paused dramatically. "History will remember the Emperor, who conquered 17 systems and then chose to spare his remaining enemies not from weakness, but from the ultimate strength of unshakable confidence." The words were perfectly calibrated to appeal to Krikstal's desire for historical legacy and his culturally ingrained fear of appearing weak. Chun was offering him a way to end the costly war while framing it as the ultimate demonstration of strength. Within a week, Emperor Krikstal announced the Great Cessation, a grand proclamation that presented the end of hostilities as proof of Zephyrian cultural evolution and supreme confidence. The Empire would accept tribute and acknowledgement from remaining free species, rather than waste effort destroying obviously inferior opponents. "We have proven our supremacy beyond all doubt," Krikstal declared in a galaxy-wide broadcast. "Continued warfare serves no purpose except to delay the inevitable acknowledgement of our dominance. True strength includes the wisdom to show mercy when victory is absolute." The war ended not with surrender or compromise, but with the Zephyrians convincing themselves that stopping was actually the most powerful thing they could do. Humanity had achieved the impossible. They had made their enemies defeat themselves while believing they were demonstrating superior wisdom.